All right, so I just did my first solo flight when I checked out my plane by myself. Set it up, went through that checklist really carefully. Called flight services before I took off. Weather was good, but there's a convective Cygnet for this afternoon. When we got out here, it was a little breezier than I wanted. Wind was kind of 120 to 150. We came out, we went through the Cygnet, and I've got my solo in about 2 weeks ago with Dave Myers out of Savannah. I only did 2 landings and 2 takeoffs, called that a day. And I've got about 33 hours in between Hans Brown over there in Bradenton, who I did the majority of my training with. Went out there today. We tried to go yesterday. There was so many people, it was just nerve-wracking, so we went home. Got out here today, set this thing up, and got to tell you, there's a little difference when you've been flying, for 2 or 3 days in a row, and then you do your solo, compared to setting it up yourself and going out there. I went out, we're at Morningside Park. I did about 3 little loops out here, 4 probably, just trying to get my nerves up. Did my run up, everything was looking good. The wind was a little breezier than I wanted. It was kind of gusty, and I'm guessing maybe to 12 or 13 on the gusts and down to like 9. So I get it lined up. Wind was hovering between about 140 degrees, lined up a couple buildings. And the only thing I told myself, I kept on just saying, oh God, I'm gonna crash to the right. But I just said, all right, here's the deal. That bar is gonna go forward. You're gonna pin it, you're gonna nail that throttle, drop it all the way in, and no matter what you do, you're not coming off the throttle until you up to about 350 feet. So boom, it was kind of breezy. I was off the water in no time. Pretty smooth takeoff. Came up towards the causeway here, and I said, all right, clearing my left turn here. And there's a lot of traffic around here, but I cleared my left, and I noticed how windy it was coming over the causeway. There was gusts to pretty gusty, and actually flying this thing is normally not my problem. It's usually the takeoffs and the landings, but this time it was a little sketchy. My hands were, I recognized I was tight, so I was trying to loosen up, but man, I was still tight. My right leg started shaking so bad that I couldn't land right away because I needed to get my wits about me again. I think I made probably about 3 loops. I was a little high. I was trying to land it in close so I wouldn't have to taxi far. There's some boats kind of trafficking on the water out here. Went around, came over the little island here, dropped it down, took my power down to minimum, lined it up on my buildings at about 120, maybe even 130 on that one. It switched a little bit. And my first landing was just, it was butter. But the whole time I was up there, I was telling myself, I'm like, dude, if you could just get back on the ground, you're not taking off again. Because you can see we've got the clouds building up. Now, we had a good weather forecast. It's supposed to get bad around 2, but that doesn't mean you can't get some stuff blowing in off the sea. So I get out there, got my nerve up again. I said, all right, I got to get 2 landings and 2 takeoffs just to say I did it. Went out here, landed up on the second one, boom, right up in the air. Felt really good. But then it was a little windier and gustier. It was kind of swirling, and I saw there's a little bit of rain coming in with these clouds over here. So I said, all right, I'm gonna try to make it. I think I did, what would I do, 1 or 2 laps that one? 2 laps for about 12 minutes. And I think my first flight was about 18 minutes long, and this one was about 12. But I did 2 laps, and then I came in, I said, all right, I'm gonna get it low, wheels up, check my water, make sure it's wheels up into the wind, sorry. Checked my water, make sure I wasn't gonna hit anything. Came off the power, came gliding right in. I had a lot of crabbing kind of taking me towards the land, dropped that wing a little bit, got it down low, added just a little power, bump. This one wasn't as good as my first one because I had to add a little bit of power, and I got a huge gust right at the end that kind of wanted me to float a little bit. I skidded that back one, and I got 2 little pops, but not tough at all. But this is the Airtime Cygnet. Michael Percy out of Destler, Fort Walton Beach area built this thing. It's the only one you can get if you want an FAA rated light sport amphibious trike. I got a 20 square meter wing on this one. It's got a 100 horsepower 912S Rotax. It's all dual redundant aviation engine. Let me tell you, I've got this particular one, I put a transponder in it with the hopes of being able to go to Bimini or down to the Keys sometimes. So I'm flying underneath Class B airspace here, up to, so if within 30 miles, I need to go ahead and turn on my transponder. Yeah, there you go, see. But I tell you, it was a neat day. I was glad to get this thing on the ground, and just makes me more excited. But, originally I'm one of those guys that says that I'm just gonna hop on this thing and make it work. It took me a long time. Part of it was kind of probably recovering from that shoulder injury, but it's a physical thing to fly when you're not good. It's a little like kite surfing. You're super tight when you first get into it on your kite. And I felt it then, man. My thumbs were even tight. My fingers hurt. And I think after you get better, you can fly for long distances. But my dream of hopping in this thing and just zipping over to Bimini next week or down to the Keys isn't going to happen. Well, number one, I got to be checked out to do that. Right now, I just have a student license. It's good for Biscayne Bay area. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get another maybe 20 hours of flying in, go get my written test, and be able to do a little more with this. But the big challenge, big accomplishment. First time I've been that scared in probably 20 years, so it feels good. Awesome.